Warmup.
Way back there. Good man!
On the Sports Leader.
Welcome into the KBR Giants warm-up show with Bill Laskey sitting in for Kerry Crowley. He'll be back in the seat next weekend. I'm taking over the warm-up show today and tomorrow to get you ready for that first pitch today at 7:05. Kind of a strange Saturday night game at that late, and then tomorrow's an ABC game, and that first pitch is at 12:10. So a couple different times here to finish out a 6-game homestand that the Giants are struggling in. They're 1-3 on this homestand with 2 left. A big win today would definitely spark this team to go at them tomorrow. But you know what? Let's talk about some champions of the first half. Let's put your hands together for Kyle Haynes and Randy Wynn, as the minor league seasons are halfway through right now, and 3 divisions the Giants have won the first half. In San Jose, in the Cal League, the San Jose Giants finished 35-25, and they won the first half, so they are in the playoffs. In High A, up in Eugene, the Eugene Emeralds finished 41-20. That's right, 41-20, and they won the first half of the Northwest League. And then you're jumping right into Double A, the Eastern League. And the Richmond Flying Squirrels won it last night. They are 40-20. That's right, 40-20 the first half, as Dennis Pelfrey won his 300th win yesterday. What an exciting time that was. They won 3-0 in a short four and a half inning game. It got rained out, but they still won the game 3-0. They were celebrating in the locker room. After a dismal season last year where they were 56-79, they turned it around, and now they're 40-20. All 3 divisions first place. So now you're waiting to see if the Sacramento River Cats can make it 4. And the Sacramento River Cats are 39-26. They are in first place. They have a 1-game lead over Las Vegas. We'll find out as this week prevails to see if all 4 teams take that first spot in their divisions for the playoffs. But it's pretty cool today reading these highlights of all 3 teams and some of the players that have just done remarkable in the first half. But I think the biggest turnaround is in Double A at the Richmond Flying Squirrels. Their first year at Carmack's Ballpark, a brand new facility. It's a beautiful ballpark. And Dennis Pelfrey is getting his 300th win. Pretty cool right there. And like I say, congratulations to Kyle Haynes and Randy Wynn. Of course, both of them are doing a fantastic job directing players where they're going, moving them up, moving them in. And right now, the Giants got to be pretty happy with 3 divisions right now in first place. Well, we got to look at this team, the San Francisco Giants, and let's go back in time here. Last week, they were on a 10-game road trip. They finished 5-5. They lost 2 out of 3 in Colorado. They ended up coming back and splitting with Milwaukee 2-2. Then they went into Chicago, won the first game, lost the second game, and won the third game. So they took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs to finish 5-5. A late night game, a really late night game, and they had to fly late coming in, and the Washington Nationals were waiting for them. The Giants had a 3-1 lead in the Monday's game, and they just couldn't hold it in the top of the 9th as the Nationals scored 3 runs and took that game 4-3. The second game didn't go their way either, as the Nationals won that one 6-3. But Wednesday, there was some magic at Oracle Park. The Giants were down 9-1. They chipped away. And in the bottom of the 9th inning, it was set up where Bryce Eldridge came up with bases loaded, and he hit a grand slam to take the win 11-10. One of the most exciting games I've seen at Oracle Park during a season, not playoffs or World Series. And the place was electric. Bryce Eldridge, just the star, 21 years old, gets the spotlight. And what did he do? He didn't miss it. He didn't miss it at all. And then we turned a page. They had a day off Thursday, and the excitement kind of dulled down as the Giants yesterday just couldn't get any hitting going against the right-hander Javier Assad, as Assad ended up throwing 6 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. And he did that last week in Chicago. He pitched another gem. But the Giants only can muster 4 hits. Luis Arraez got a hit. He extended his hitting streak to 12 games. They moved Bryce Eldridge up to the 2 spot. And boy, he just took off 3 for 4, a solo home run in the 9th inning, his 5th home run. And that was all. The Giants only could muster 4 hits. Schmidt, Devers, Lee, Adames, Chapman, Gilbert, and Susac 0 for 22 with just 1 walk. So hopefully today they can turn the tide on the Chicago Cubs and try to turn this around. When you're looking at what Luis Arraez has done here in his 12-game streak, 19 for 54, batting .350, 4 doubles, 2 triples, and 5 RBIs. And now you start looking at Bryce Eldridge. He's got an 18-game on-base streak. And in those 18 games, 8 doubles, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, and 11 walks. Just a sensational turnaround for Bryce Eldridge as he's 31 for 98. In that game yesterday, Jung-Hoo Lee lost his 18-game hitting streak. Hit the ball hard twice, really hit the ball hard, just couldn't fall in. And he ended up in that 18-game streak going 36 for 72. That's just amazing. 36 for 72, hitting .500, 5 doubles, 1 triple, 1 home run, 10 RBIs. He's now hitting .333 on the season. And when you look at this team right now, there's 3 players that are hitting over 300. Luis Arraez, of course, .326. I said Jung-Hoo Lee, .333. Well, right behind him, Bryce Eldridge at .316. Fantastic. The Giants just got to get going with the offense today, and they got a big mark on going against Ben Brown. The 26-year-old right-hander has been really pitching well for the Chicago Cubs. He's 2-2 with a 1.74 earned run average in his last 3 starts. He did pitch against the Giants in Chicago. He ended up pitching against St. Louis and Pittsburgh. In the last 3 games, he's gone 18 1/3 innings, 8 hits, only 2 earned runs, 4 walks, 18 strikeouts. Oh, he's dominant. And he comes in with an overall good fastball, about 96, 97, a knuckle curveball he really relies on, right in the mid-80s, a nice sinker, 94, 92, and a changeup, a 4-pitch mix that he really stymied the Giants in Chicago, going 5 1/3 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. One of the things he got in trouble with, he could not find that first strike. He was 4 for 19 with first strike. So maybe the Giants can go after him and get after him a little early because he is a dynamic right-hander. Now for the Giants, of course, Trevor McDonald's on the hill today. Trevor McDonald's 2-3 with a 4.15 earned run average. He's given up 3 home runs, 39 innings, 34 hits, 18 earned runs, 12 walks, 37 strikeouts. He also pitched in Chicago and got a no decision. He went 5 innings in that game, giving up 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. And you start looking at what he's done in the month of May. 5 starts. Trevor McDonald was 2-2 with a 4.3 earned run average. He threw a couple real good games. He pitched Milwaukee before Chicago, going 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. So these starters have to get deeper into games. Of course, Logan Webb went 8 innings in his last start, but these last 2, Landon Rupin and Trevor McDonald, have to get through the 5, 6, and 7 innings. They have to get deeper into games as the bullpen's been used too much. So we turn it today, and we'll find out what the Giants can do at a home game. And, of course, it's a Saturday night 7:05 game. We'll give you the lineups, talk a little bit more about this Giants team. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the KNBR Giants warm-up show as we're getting ready for that first pitch at 7:05. We'll take a quick break, come back with more right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Our KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader.
Swing, and there's a drive into deep right field, way back there. Goodbye! A line drive home run onto the arcade. Second game in a row where Bryce Eldridge has a ninth inning home run.
Okay, slightly less dramatic tonight. Still pretty cool.
And the Giants have their first run. They have 4 hits, and he has 3 of them.
All right, back on the Giants warm-up show, and I never want to correct John Miller, but Bryce Eldridge has 3 games in a row he's hit home runs, and John Miller might have forgot about the one Tuesday night, but he did Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. So the Hall of Famer, I got you. 3 games in a row. But again, Bryce Eldridge hitting that home run, stopping the shutout. And I think that was a key part of that game. 3 for 4, hitting .318. Bryce Eldridge, 21 years old, just having a fabulous week here in San Francisco. Let's talk about a couple games that went on earlier today. In Chicago, Yamamoto had a perfect game going through 7 2/3 innings, a ground ball to Mookie Betts, and he booted it. And what happens? He gets out of the inning. So he had a no-hitter going into the 9th inning. The first hitter, Tristan Peters, he tried to throw a fastball by him, and Tristan Peters hit a home run. So the shutout and the no-hitter disappeared. He ended up going 8 1/3 innings. The Dodgers ended up winning that game 7-1. Yamamoto got the win. The other game, all eyes were on Tarek Skubal. Of course, Skubal has been off on the IL, and he ended up pitching against the Cleveland Guardians today. He went 4 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Threw 80 pitches, 55 for strikes. A good outing for Skubal. Of course, all the things are linked to him being traded. So many teams, and today we finally saw one come through. Atlanta Braves are offering 4 minor leaguers, very top prospects, and could be more. So I think there's going to be a few teams that are going to be talking to the Tigers about Skubal, and it might happen before the trade deadline. There's some things that are really moving fast, and the Tigers are thinking about trading him, and I think today was a big start for Skubal and getting back on the mound, and he threw the ball well against the Guardians. A lot of finals. We'll get to that on the Toyota scoreboard in Diamond Notes. Let's take a peek at the starting lineup that Tony Vitello threw out there today. Of course, Trevor McDonald will be throwing for the Giants. Leading off, Luis Arraez, a 12-game hitting streak. He's hitting .326. He'll be playing second base. Bryce Eldridge is DHing today, hitting .316, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs. Casey Schmidt back in left field. He's hitting third, hitting .272, 15 home runs, 38 RBIs for Casey. Rafael Devers will be back at first base. He's hitting .230, 9 home runs, 33 RBIs on the season. Jung-Hoo Lee is going to start his new hitting streak today, of course. Yesterday he lost the 18-game hitting streak. Today he's batting 5th, hitting .333 on the season, 3 home runs, 24 RBIs. Willie Adames is back at shortstop, hitting 6th, batting .232, 11 home runs, 29 RBIs. Matt Chapman batting 7th. Boy, he's having a great month of June, just really coming along. And he's hitting .260 right now. Playing third base, 6 home runs, 37 RBIs. Drew Gilbert back in center field. He's hitting .226, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs for Drew Gilbert. And Eric Haas is behind the plate catching Mr. McDonald today. He's hitting .234, 4 home runs, and 9 RBIs. So you got Arise, Eldridge, Schmidt, Devers, Lee, Adames, Chapman, Gilbert, and Haas. And that's the lineup Tony Vitello's throwing out there for the 28 wins and 42 loss San Francisco Giants. Got a great show lined up for you. Mark Abandes will be joining me shortly. Of course, he's been at KTVU, sports director for over 40 years. We're going to talk about this Giants team in the first 70 games of the season and what went good and what went bad and what can be questionable and what can the Giants do to try to maintain this season. John Shea is going to join me later. Of course, he writes for the San Francisco Standard, SF Standard. He's at the ballpark right now. We'll get a live update with John Shea later in the show. And I caught up with J.P. Martinez last week. And, of course, J.P. Martinez was with the Giants for 5 years. He was a pitching coach here with the San Francisco Giants last year. Now he's with the Atlanta Braves. And, of course, the Giants after Sunday will be traveling to Atlanta for a 3-game series with the top line Atlanta Braves. So it was a nice conversation with JP. We became friends here when he was the pitching coach, and we talked a lot about what new things he's learning with the Braves and what are some of the things he's bringing over. And it was this great conversation. He's such a good guy and such a great pitching coach. And then Joe Whitman. You're going to say, who's Joe Whitman, Bill? Well, Joe Whitman's a pitcher that started in Richmond this year. Had a great start of the year, 5-1 in Richmond. They moved him up to AAA in his first outing through 6 shutout innings. A left-hander from, of course, the state of Ohio, where I'm from. And he also went to Kent State University, another alma mater of mine. So it was a great conversation in bringing up some of the things he and I kind of parallel together, but many years apart, of course. But a great little conversation about a left-hander that's kind of in the back pocket of the San Francisco Giants as he's pitching for the Sacramento River Cats. Great show lined up as we get going for the Saturday show, the KNBR Warm-Up Show. Talking about a couple other things that we're looking at, who's hot and who's not. The Giants, when they first came here in the Washington Nationals, a couple guys really hit the ball well. Of course, Jung-Hoo Lee coming off that road trip, 23 for 41. He finished a 3-game series against Washington, 8 for 14. Just scalding the ball, 338 going into yesterday's game. And, of course, the 18-game hitting streak was failed. Boy, he hit the ball well, too, yesterday. And then you got to look, of course, at Mr. Arise, 13 for 42 coming off that road trip, 6 for 15 against the Nationals, hitting .327. Now, of course, the 21-year-old Bryce Eldridge getting more at-bats now. Off the road trip, 15 for 36, 5 for 12 against the Nationals with 2 home runs. Of course, the Grand Slam was just awesome on Wednesday, 5 for 12. Went 3 for 4 yesterday, so he's 8 for 16 with another home run. You look at Chapman. Chapman's another one that's starting to hit the ball better, 12 for 36 on the road trip. He ended up going 7 for 11 against the Nationals with 2 home runs in that Wednesday game. 0 for 2 yesterday, raised his batting average up to .262. With the 0 for 2, knocked it down to .260. Some hot hitters. Now we just got to get some pitching done, and this pitching staff has to get better. And I look at numbers from the pitching staff, and it all really circles around one number, walks. And it's not just a bullpen, it's also in the starting staff. When you're looking at walks for this team in 70 games, 276 walks. That's 276 free passes. And they've only struck out 543. So you start looking at that number, and then you start looking at the offensive numbers of this team not getting walks. And they only have 159 walks. They're 30th out of 30 teams. So you start averaging those out. Your offense is only getting 159 walks. And your pitching staff's given up 276 walks. So that's where the balance starts equaling out. You start looking at numbers for the offense, and it sways a little bit because of so many blowout games when they had double-digit runs and double-digit innings. When you look at the team, they have the most hits in Major League Baseball with 626. 626 hits, first in Major League Baseball. They have the most doubles with 139. And then you start looking at team average. They're hitting .258. They're second in Major League Baseball, and the Dodgers are at .264. They have 16 triples. That's second in Major League Baseball behind the Diamondbacks. And you start looking at home runs, 72 home runs, and that's 17th out of 30 teams. So you start looking at these numbers and you're saying, come on, how come we're not winning with these numbers? Well, it all equals out. And one of the biggest things is defense. The Giants have made 68 errors on the season. That's 28 out of 30 teams. The defense got to clean it up. Yesterday's game, there was a double in left center where Gilbert threw to Adames threw to Susac. He was out at the plate. Somehow, some way, Susac didn't catch the ball. Little things like that. Mental errors add up. Physical errors. And when you're looking at 68 errors, that has to get cleaned up to have this team start winning some games. You look at the offense, you see all the numbers. You look at the pitching numbers. The bullpen is 19th overall out of 30 teams. They have a 4.43 earned run average. You look at overall numbers for the whole pitching staff, just a little bit over 4. That's 14th in Major League Baseball. 13 saves, 586 hits. They've given up the highest. That's the 6th highest in Major League Baseball. And the earned runs are 21st, the worst at 309. So the Giants have to clean it up on the pitching side and stop walking guys. The walks are just really bad. 276. That's the 3rd most out of 30 teams. And you can see it. Last night, Landon Roop walking 2 leadoff hitters, and both of them scored. And these are the mistakes this pitching staff is doing. The first walks from the bullpen coming in. The first walks on the start are starting innings off. And as an ex-pitcher, you always said, hey, 90% of the first walks of an inning always score. It's not that high, but it sure seems that way when pitchers throw and the hitters get a walk for the first hitter. All right, we're going to take a quick break, come back as Mark Abanias and I talk about this Giants team, 70 games in. And, of course, they're 28-42. It's great catching up with Mark, of course, over 40 years as a sports director. He tells it like it is. Mark Abanias and I talk about this team next on the KNBR Giants Warm-Up Show.
Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the Sports Leader.
Welcome back to the KNBR Warm-Up Show. It's always a pleasure bringing on my guests. Of course, over 40 years, he was a sports director at KTVU Channel 2. Let's bring in Mark Ibanez. Mark, how are you this afternoon?
Hey, I'm doing great. And I don't know about you, Bill, but I'm still buzzed over what transpired at the ball yard on Wednesday afternoon. I'm just blown away by that game and all the historical impact on that, and just left me feeling like a completely different vibe. And it's positive, as opposed to, I went to the game Tuesday night, and walking out of there, the vibe was not quite the same. And I was kicking my buddies and saying, "Hey, man, how come you didn't invite me to the Wednesday game?"
Well, Mark, Buster Posey wanted memories. We've all heard about him talking about it. And as you say, here it is Saturday, and the buzz is still at Oracle Park. The fans are calling in the shows, and post-game are still talking about it. Here, Bryce Eldridge was only in his 38th game as a big leaguer. And boy, he made some memories for every Giants fan there at the ballpark, watching the game and even watching the highlights after the game. He's a special player, and he now wants to be that guy. He wants to be the face of the franchise. What did you think about his comments after that game?
Well, I love his maturity, and I love his willingness to take on that mantle. And, for a 21-year-old, it's incredible when you think about his maturity. But I've got a couple of things to say. First of all, think of the thousands and thousands of major league games, and you realize that he is the youngest player ever to have a walk-off grand slam. That in itself is amazing. And the guy whose record he beat by several days as far as being young, none other than Roberto Clemente, had previously for many years been the youngest guy ever to hit a walk-off grand slam. And that's pretty good company right there. Anytime your name and Roberto's name are in the same sentence. But you know what it reminds me of? Tell me if this rings a bell with you too. Remember how bad the Giants were in 1985? And in 86, we got a glimmer of hope when they brought up a guy by the name of Will Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't going to contend that year, but you could see dramatic improvement because, much like Bryce, Will Clark was one of those guys who suddenly had presence, where you very early on realized, okay, this isn't just your everyday guy coming up here. He enjoyed the limelight, the pressure, the willingness to be that guy at the plate in the ninth inning. And I see a lot of similarities between Bryce and the Will Clark of 1986. And then in 87, we know that, they came very close to getting into the World Series against the Twins, big series against the Cardinals. But I see similar things happening. The Giants, realistically, they're not going to be in the postseason this year, but I see so many great signs led by Bryce Eldridge. I just love where it's headed, and I love his maturity and his willingness, Bill, to take a walk. That's what impressed me last year when they brought him up briefly is, he's going to have those glitches where he swings at a crazy pitch or whatever, but very little for a 21-year-old. And I'm very impressed by his batting eye. And I think that was, to me, the first sign, like, this guy's going to be something different at this age.
Marcos, I was on that 85 season. It was a debacle. Everything went wrong. I was on that team in 86, and the electricity, as you said, with Will Clark made that team just electric. And there was more life on that team. And you saw it after the home run. Yes, you saw it after the home run, and you heard it in his voice, how electric he was, how excited he was winning that game. And he thought about a situation that happened on Monday when he had the tying run on third, the winning run on first, and he struck out. He said it bothered him. But again, on Tuesday, he hits a solo home run in the ninth inning, but that wasn't what he wanted to accomplish. He wanted to be that person to win the game for the San Francisco Giants. He talked about it. He was so excited to do it. And when it was all over, you could just see in his mind and in his heart, hey, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and you know it was scary. As I mentioned, I was at that game on Tuesday night and stuck around to see him hit that ball over the center field wall. And in my seat, down pretty close, I can tell you this: it did not have that magical sound off the bat, like whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't get all of it. And that's where I'm getting to is he didn't get all of it, and the ball just kept going deepest part of the park, over the center field wall, and he still blasted it, and he's just got scary power. I think the home runs are going to come, and he's just going to get better in that department. But I mean, his extra base power, his attitude, I think Giant fans have every reason to be super excited about this guy as a homegrown product. And it's one of those things where suddenly they got a guy in the lineup that you ain't going to the bathroom. You're not getting to the refrigerator. You're waiting to see if Bryce Eldridge is going to be up that inning. I love it.
Mark Cabana is joining me on the warm-up show here on a Saturday, and you look at the last 4 series going back to Colorado, double digits in hits, double digits in runs. They moved to Milwaukee. They do it again in Milwaukee. They do it on Friday in Chicago, and what happens on Wednesday? Down 9-1, Mark, and they rally to win this 11-10. The offense is definitely clicking. The consistency's not there as we know it. But this is starting to be a fun season watching this offense come to life.
Yeah, it gets contagious, as you know. And before the season, when you had me on during spring training, I told you that my thought at that point was that the Giants were going to win and lose a lot of games like 9-7, 10-8. Those kind of games, because if I had confidence in any aspect of their game, it was going to be the offense. And then they start out and they're stumbling and bumbling and they can't hit their way out of a paper bag. And now it's finally coming around, and where the pitching was respectable, if not better than that in the early going, now it's kind of flip-flopped. But I'm excited about the offense. And as you know, when you get a couple of guys rolling offensively, it takes the pressure off the others. And that's one of the reasons I think Chapman's starting to come around is, he sees Jung-Hoo Lee and Devers and obviously Bryce coming around, and it kind of takes the heat and the spotlight off those guys. Everybody loosens up and relaxes, and suddenly you're spraying the ball all over the field like your potential in the back of your baseball card showed you that you can do. So that's a positive. And I'm one of those guys, I know you don't because you're a pitcher. I love to see 12 runs scored all the time.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. But on the other side, no, I like the 1-0 games. Those are the fun ones.
I know you do. I know you do.
Well, listen, Mark, let's just look at a couple of things that are going on with the Giants offense. When you look at their batting average as a team, they're hitting .259, second in Major League Baseball, only to the Dodgers at .264. They're number 1 in hits with 622, number 1 in doubles, 139, and number 2 in triples in 16. But yet they're under 500 with a record. How does that work?
Yeah, I think the slow start had a lot to do with that. They lost a lot of very exasperating games in the early part of the season. And particularly May was the early part of the month was really frustrating offensively, and yet they got to be leading the league. I don't even know this, but there can't be a team with more grand slams.
Yeah.
So they do get the big hit with men on base, but maybe that's inconsistent. Like I mentioned, I did go to that game the other night, and they lost to Washington, and I believe they had 13 or 14 men left stranded. They out-hit the Nationals. Nationals won the game because the Giants just could not come up with that clutch hit. And obviously, over the course of 162 games, that's going to happen. That's a very common thing. But I think with the Giants in this half of the season, it's been too much of a thing. And getting the clutch hit, how many times have they left Arise or Jung-Hoo Lee stranded on the bases with those guys spraying out hits on a regular basis? And I got to tell you, I just really don't understand the lineup when I don't know if they're doing it all the time now. But how do you put Jung-Hoo Lee batting 6th or 7th? How do you not put him up in the order? And I could give you a million question marks I have about the way the everyday lineup is constructed. But you'll have to ask me directly about something like that before I go
Well,
conjecturing.
Mark, you're looking at this team. They're close to scoring 300 runs. But one of the things besides pitching is their defense. They're close to 70 errors. They're close to being almost 28th, 29th out of 30 teams. The defense has to clean it up, and it really starts on the infield and then it proceeds to the outfield. How does this team clean this up? And they have to, because this is what's hurting them and the opposition scoring easy runs.
Well, the easy answer to that, Bill, when I look at the left side of the infield, and I remember again talking to you in spring training saying that's shored up, man. Chapman, perennial Gold Glove winner. Adames looked very solid, particularly in the second half of last year. Chapman has made some uncharacteristic errors, and Willie Adames, I believe, leads the major leagues shortstops in errors. But I think a lot of what it has to do with is in the outfield, inconsistency. It's not the same 3 guys out there, and they've fallen into this thing of the Gabe Kapler years of bringing in, Gilbert, starting Gilbert, and then rotating him out if a left-hander comes in. And I don't believe you develop outfield consistency when you keep juggling guys out there. Obviously, the injury to Elliot Ramos has hurt with the left field situation, but he hasn't shown much with the glove. But you got to have the 3 guys out there to develop a kind of an unspoken rapport out there to shore up the defense. And as you know, that was one of the things they really wanted to work on. They knew they had to get better defensively, and if anything, it's gone the other way. And so it's really frustrating. They've been very erratic defensively.
Mark Urban is joining me for a few more minutes on the KNBR warm-up show. Well, a couple weeks ago, the pitching was doing pretty well. The last couple of weeks, over an 8-point earned run average coming out of the bullpen. The starters are just not getting through even the 5th inning. Something they got to clean up, something they got to get better at. And of course, the walks, 280 walks already on the year. And you're looking at one of the best teams that they're going to be facing in Atlanta, and Atlanta's only got 70 walks on the season. So this is something that they have to start getting better at, throwing strikes and challenging hitters. And how do they do this, Mark? They have to get some kind of consistency out of this pitching staff.
Yeah, and I think you just said the word consistency. Well, you can't have consistency if you've got Uber service back and forth between Sacramento and AT&T or Oracle Park, because there hasn't been any continuity and consistency in the actual personnel in the bullpen. And that was very predictable, obviously, in spring training. You didn't have a proven closer. That's been a problem. And obviously, the manager has had to try and figure out who he can trust in those high leverage, late inning situations. And nobody's been consistently trustworthy. And, he can't take all the blame for that because he wasn't given a consistent, proven closer. And I think it all starts with that because of the fact you can't trust anybody in the 9th inning. Well, then you got to keep juggling people around. And as we all know, the Giants have been best in their bullpen situations when everybody knows their role and it happens day in, day out. Everybody knows I'm the 7th inning guy, I'm the 8th inning, and so on. And that hasn't happened. And I understand why they've had to rotate so many guys in and out of there, because nobody's seized the opportunity and jumped up and taken it. And so the blame is to be spread out, and they've got to shore that up, certainly in the off season or maybe at the trade deadline or something. But how do you expect to be a playoff team when you don't have a bona fide big time closer? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a tough mark, and it's just being worse and worse. So many games are lost in the 8th and 9th inning, and the Giants got to clean that up. But Mark, as we finish up, we talk about memories of what Bryce Eldridge did. So many great things have happened at Oracle Park. 3 World Series champions. Would you say Bryce Eldridge's grand slam up at the top three of what happens at Oracle Park, one of the fabulous memories that you can think of?
Oh yeah, well, there are so many, and I was just thinking about that this morning. It's hard for me to believe that that park has been rolling for more than quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Opening in 2000. So obviously we got a lot of memories. For me, number one memory, in fact, it's one of my top baseball memories, is being there in a great seat. Travis Ishikawa, the walk-off home run to send the Giants into the World Series in 14, I believe that was. And that's my number one great Giants memory at the ballpark. But this had to be number two. And I loved being at the game when Pablo hit 3 home runs, a couple of them off that guy, Justin Verlander. I've heard of him. But a ton of memories. But man, how can it not be? I'll say at least in the top 5,
Yeah.
And to do that at age 21, like I said, I think this portends to some really great things for the Giants in the near future. And we didn't get a chance to talk to him, but another guy I'm really impressed with for the future. I mean, you talk about speed and defense and the possibilities that the guy Jonah Cox brings in the outfield. I mean, I think for the first time in a long time, there's some everyday players that are going to bring some more thrills to the ballpark real soon, man. Speed and defense is where they got to get stronger in, and obviously that helps the pitching shore it all up too.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday afternoon. More memories coming up, hopefully at Oracle Park, and let's see what the Giants can do as they finish out the month of June. But thanks again, Mark.
Always my pleasure, Bill. Love talking ball with you. And I believe the second half of the season is going to be providing us with a lot more positivity and stuff to be optimistic for, certainly.
That was Mark Ibanez on the KNBR Warm-Up Show. More coming up right here on The Sports Leader.
We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
Miller pitches, swinging. There's a shot down the right field line, hooking into the corner. It's a home run onto the arcade, right past the foul pole. And those two runners both score and more. 5-0 Cubs, just like that.
All right, back on the Giants warm-up show on KNBR with Bill Laskey, sitting in for Kerry Crowley. He'll be back Saturday and Sunday next week. I'll be handling the show today as well as tomorrow. Well, Craig Counsell finally put his lineup in, so let's take a look at what the Cubs are going to present to the San Francisco Giants today. Of course, Craig Counsell in his second full year as the Cubs manager. The team is 36-34. Leading off playing in center field, Pete Crow Armstrong, PCA, hitting .257 with 11 home runs and 32 RBIs. Batting second, designated hitter today, is Alex Bregman. He's hitting .246, 6 home runs, 22 RBIs. Batting third, playing first base, Michael Busch. Of course, he hit the 3-run home run yesterday. You just heard from John Miller. .252, 8 home runs, 41 RBIs. Seiya Suzuki, he'll be playing right field, batting fourth for the Cubs. .252 on the year, 10 home runs, 27 RBIs. Playing left field, batting fifth, Ian Happ. .228 batting average, 15 home runs, 36 RBIs. Batting sixth, Nico Horner. He'll be playing second base. .245 batting average, 4 home runs, 34 RBIs. Batting seventh, playing third base, Pedro Ramirez. Hasn't played much. He's hitting .217 on the season. 22 years old, a pretty good player. Batting eighth, the catcher, Miguel Amaya, hitting .217, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. And batting ninth, Dansby Swanson. Not doing well this year on the batting side, but he's very good on the defensive side. He's only hitting .180, 7 home runs, and 28 RBIs. Craig Counsell puts out Crow Armstrong, Bregman, Busch, Suzuki, Happ, Horner, Ramirez, Amaya, and Swanson. Taking a look at what Tony Vitello is doing on the second game of a 3-game series against the Cubs, leading off with a 12-game hitting streak. Luis Arraez hitting .326. He'll be playing second base. Batting second after a 3-for-4 game last night, Bryce Eldridge will be DHing. He's hitting .316, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs. Batting third, playing left field, Casey Schmidt hitting .272, 15 home runs, 38 RBIs for Casey. Batting fourth, playing first base, Rafael Devers hitting .230, 9 home runs, 33 RBIs for Devers. Batting fifth after his 18-game hitting streak ended. He's going to start a new one today. Jung-Hoo Lee's playing right field, hitting .333, 3 home runs and 24 RBIs. Batting sixth, Willie Adames playing shortstop. He's hitting .232, 11 home runs and 29 RBIs. Hitting seventh, Matt Chapman having a fantastic month in June. He'll be playing third base, hitting .260 already. 6 home runs, 37 RBIs. Batting eighth and playing center field, Drew Gilbert hitting .226, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs. And batting ninth, the catcher Eric Haas hitting .234, 4 home runs and 9 RBIs. Tony Vitello's team, 28-42. The San Francisco Giants, Arraez, Eldridge, Schmidt, Devers, Lee, Adames, Chapman, Gilbert, and Haas. 2 good lineups. We're going to find out how it all plays out at 7:05. Ben Brown for the Cubs against Trevor McDonald. Coming up next, we're going to talk to John Shea. He's at Oracle Park. Find out a little bit more about the Giants, get his insight on last night's game, and, of course, Wednesday's fantastic game. John Shea coming up next with Bill Laskey right here on the KNBR Giants warm-up show on KNBR, the sports leader.
It's almost time for hot dogs, peanuts, cold beers, and orange and black baseball. Our Giants warm-up rolls on the sports leader.
All right, back on the KNBR Giants warm-up show with Bill Laskey as we get out to Oracle Park and talk to my good friend. Of course, that's John Shea. You can read his work at the SF Standard. And if you haven't purchased both of these books, you got to do it. Some fantastic work by John Shea, the biographer of Willie Mays, number 24, and also the other book, Off Base, about Rickey Henderson. Let's bring in John Shea. John, how are you this afternoon?
The other 24. Good, Bill. How you doing?
That's right. See, I know you always got that one-liner. That's what's great about you, John. You always have one in your back pocket.
So what I'm missing is the Rick Barry book. I guess somebody else will write that one. We were blessed with some
John,
awesome 24s in the Bay here, right?
Oh, those are the two best 24s in my eyes, especially with the green
Rick
and
Barry.
gold and the orange and black. Yeah, but we're talking baseball, pal. Come on.
Oh, okay.
So John, 14 years ago, man, we were young. We were really young then. And sure enough, today, the Matt Cain Perfecto, the anniversary of it, June 13th, in a 10-0 game, Matt Cain goes out there, 27 up and 27 down. Were you at that game? Because I ended up watching it. I was not there. How about you?
Steve Kroner was covering for us that night. And we all regret not being there, but Steve Kroner brags about it because he was the man. He wrote his prose, and to this day is the guy who captured the moment, and we're all jealous because of it. But what a moment for that kid, who's no longer a kid. But that was really, that was 2012 when he really put it all together and was the ace of the team, and the ace of the postseason, the ace from day one, and. That was just, with the great grab in the gap. I mean, that really kind of typifies him as what, the old nickname, the horse, right? He just never wanted to come out of the game. And the phrase back then was he got caned, right? Meaning he gave up 2 runs in 7 innings, but the Giants lose 2-1. That was like a typical Matt Cain game for so long. Until he got to the postseason anyway. But that moment was cool, all the way down to the final out, which we still wonder why a third baseman backtracks on a ground ball to him. Remember that?
Sure do. I sure do. And he backhands it and throws it across the field, and everybody was waiting to see if he could get it there before the runner got there. But you start thinking about this game, John, as an ex-pitcher. You have a 10-0 lead, 10-0. So you don't have anything to deal with. You just got to pump strikes in there. And, of course, Blanco makes the fantastic catch in right center field. But I just wonder if you go back with Matt Cain, if he was even thinking about the lead, thinking about how much room he had, or was it just thinking hitter to hitter?
You know better than I, but every time we speak to pitchers, it's rarely do they think about the end game. It's always the here and now, inning to inning. Maybe more so now than then, because yourself and Cain and all the other great pitchers of Giants lore, they all spoke about getting deep into the game and pacing themselves. Now it's about throwing as hard and as often as you can, and screw the 5th inning, forget the 7th inning, never mind the 9th inning, and let's just get through 1, and then rest and then see where it goes in inning 2. But back then, if I recall right, he knew it was coming, and especially that Blanco catch in the gap late in the game, that really solidified his mindset and kind of focused him on the final goal, and that was to issue no walks, to give up no hits, to go up 27 up, 27 down. And, you could see the body language, you could see the joy on the Blanco catch and the Joaquin Arias final out. And yeah, those are moments you don't often forget. You could probably put that in the all-time top 5 or 10 in this ballpark's history, right?
No question about it. John Shea joining me on the KNBR Giants warm-up show. You can follow him on X at John Shea, S-H-E-A, Hey, H-E-Y. Does a fabulous job covering the Giants and other sports in the Bay Area. But, John, I'm going to jump over to something else. You wrote a great article about Jen Powell, the first Major League Baseball female umpire. I was very fascinated watching her call balls and strikes behind the plate. I thought she did a fantastic job. You wrote a great piece about it. The Giants brass thought she did a good job. And, of course, quotations, Ed Montague gave her a plus, and that means a lot to you and me.
And Eddie, we are spoiled. First of all, it's probably the best press box in the country, and I've been to all the other ballparks, existing and previous, and you can't get closer. You can't get more centrally located behind the plate, and Eddie Montague is in the press box, right? And back in the day, it could have been just legends of whomever, going back to every writer from the 50s and 60s who just happened to come back and broadcaster. And, you know, the Hank Greenwalds and on and on and on. Bob Stevens would visit. But anyway, Eddie Montague still works for Major League Baseball as, quote, an observer, an umpire observer, meaning he'll come to games, and he lives pretty far away now. He lives up in the North Bay, so it's a longer commute. So he doesn't come to every game, but he definitely was here for Jen's game, and that was the first time a female umpire umpired a game in Major League history in San Francisco, and certainly in this ballpark. And yeah, I thought did a wonderful job. And you know, you go on social media and you see all the slime written and all the venom expressed, and it's just unfortunate and silly and stupid. And you just kind of discount that and ignore it and use your eye test. Well, how did she do? Well, the fact is, neither team complained heavily about anything during the 9 innings, and certainly she didn't turn the game one way or another. In fact, Daniel Susak reminded me that he didn't call one challenge all day. Over 9 innings, he caught the entirety of the game and never questioned one of her calls. So, and I think only 2 Giants, Arise and Jung-Hoo Lee, questioned and challenged calls, and they were overturned. Whatever. She is 5'4", and it's got to be the smallest umpire that I've ever seen, shortest. And this is something I asked Bryce Eldridge about, who's 6'7". She did miss on a couple of high pitches above the strike zone, which were overturned into balls. Now, Jerry Meals and some other umpires over the years have been 5'7", 5'8", but as the players told me, and I'm nitpicking, of course, and I'm kind of blowing over her, as did the players, because she did a fascinating job. I don't know why I'm talking about her height, but the fact is, it's a thing if you think about it, because like the shortest umpire in history was 4'11", and he umpired in the dead ball era in the early 1900s, back when catchers didn't even fully squat. They just kind of bent over at the waist. So anyway, I'm going down a tangent here. And the bottom line is the players respected her. Eddie Montague respected her. Kruko and Piper talked about her in the booth, glowing reviews. And I just think that it's amazing for the game. And Bryce Eldridge, all 21 of him, might have had the most telling words when he said, her presence, it encourages young girls to do the same. So just that statement by this young fella who just a couple of days ago got the biggest hit here in years, going back to 2021. For him to say that about the umpire who ran that game the other day, I think that said a lot.
John, back in the day when I was going through the minor leagues in the 80s and 90s, they had umpires, female umpires, but they never got past Double-A. They just kind of let it go. And I think a lot of it was they weren't moving up. And they gave it a few years, and they just couldn't get it through. The Florida State League had a handful of them back in the day when I was playing A-ball. But it was so difficult, especially with the locker rooms. And I know the Giants have made that locker room special for her. And it was just a man's game back then, and they took a lot of verbal abuse from players and coaches and fans. And what I really liked about her, she took that game under her wing. She went out there at certain times when pitchers and coaches were out there, and she made a movement. I was watching how the authority was full, and she was on point. And I tell you, she really called a good game behind the plate, and maybe by being a little shorter, she had a little better vision for the balls and strikes.
Well, a year ago, this won't even be a thing, but it's new, so it's a story, it's a headline. Alyssa Nacken was a Giants coach, okay? Her first year here, it was a major deal because she was the first at the major league level. So it was a thing, it was a story, it was a headline. We all wrote about it. The fans dug it. There was all kinds of national response. I think her jerseys in Cooperstown I saw when I went back there a few months ago. But the following year wasn't even a thing. Okay, there's Alyssa, no big deal. And then you started seeing other women being hired, at the major league level and the minor league level, including as a managerial post, I think down in the Yankees in A-ball. But my point is, she's the first, and more are coming. And it's nothing to do about gender. It's nothing to do about height. Like Matt Chapman told me, it's if you can call a game well, and it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter your background or anything about you. It's whether you can do a good job behind the plate, and that's all they're looking for. And she did a good job in the minors. She worked her way up to the International League and the Pacific Coast League, so she earned this position. I mean, baseball is always behind football. It's always behind basketball. It's been years since the NBA and NFL started implementing women referees into their sports, and baseball is always behind. But sure enough, they finally caught up, and Jen won't be alone here.
John Shea joining me on the KBR Giants warm-up show. Of course, you can read his work at the SF Standard. I want to throw a couple numbers to you about the Giants this year, and it kind of boggles my mind a little bit on walks. On the pitching side, the Giants have walked 276 players in 70 games. On the offensive side, they've only received 159 walks. How can you juggle these two numbers and try to figure out how they could fix them?
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, early on, I mean, Rafi Devers could just not hit a fastball right down the middle of the pipe. I mean, it's just stunning that pitchers were just not pitching around him. They were going right after him. And that sort of began a domino effect in which pitchers realized, you know what? I don't have to nitpick. I don't have to go outside or low. I can just go after these guys. They were not good enough to win games if you threw them fastballs down the middle and maybe mixed up a changeup slider here and there. But I've never seen anything, somebody of his status missing fastballs over and over and over. That was April. In May, his OPS was darn near, it was in the high 900. So he really turned himself around. Although June, it's a June swoon, and we all know what a June swoon is. And he's swooning. He's not hitting at all in June, just like he did not hit in April. And I think how he goes, how Willie Adames go, that's how the Giants go. And they are free swingers. They chase. They go after everything. They got big old swings. And they haven't walked. Although they did walk quite a bit last year, they're just not walking this year. And there's a carryover effect. And here's another stat for you. Yeah, I mean, the Giants the offense has the most hits in the major league. This offense has gotten more hits than any other team in the major league, but they're 26th in on-base percentage. And explain that to me.
I wish I could tell. I wish we could figure it out, because the way they hit, and of course you're looking at some of the wild games, double-digit home runs, double-digit hits, that plays a lot into their .259 team batting average. But you start looking at the pitching staff, the walks, the first hitter walks. So yesterday, Landon Root walked 2 hitters, the first hitter. And then you get the bullpen coming in, and they walk the first hitter. In my mind as an ex-pitcher, it always seems like 90% of the times when that walk happens, they score. It's not that way, of course. But it's just the point of going after that first hitter. You know, Landon Root had 7 full counts. He had over 20 foul balls, and he comes in with over 100 pitches in 4 2/3 innings. And this is what's kind of happening in the middle parts of the innings. They can't get through the 4th, 5th, and 6th inning, and the bullpen comes in so early. But these walks have to be fixed, John, and it starts with the starters, and it also works right with the relievers coming in, trying to get to that first hitter.
You're talking about this, and it just dawned on me. Do you remember Dick Tidrow? Remember his value to the organization?
Sure.
Whether it was drafting Lincecum, Bumgarner, Kane, or actually going out to the minor league diamonds and working with these kids and coming up to the big leagues and kind of tinkering with their mechanics. Maybe he was a huge difference maker back in that championship Brian Sabian, Bobby Evans era, when it was lights out for the rotation, it was lights out for the bullpen. They didn't have guys throwing 103 miles per hour in the bullpen. They just had guys who had, bat the ball. It was just, here, hit it, because I got the defense, and hit a fly ball to deep right center. I don't care. It'll be caught. But now it's about velocity. It's about exit velocity.
Yeah.
It's about launch angle and all that stuff. And I'm wondering, the days of Dick Tidrow, I mean, that was a huge difference maker, what he did for this club. And maybe that's what this franchise is lacking. I'm not sure. I don't want to misspeak, because there are a lot of talented, quality people in the roles all the way throughout the organization. But he was a man of many hats. And if you remember, he was on site. He was in the draft room, and then he developed you all the way up. And that's the beauty of the Dick Tidrow, which, R.I.P. to Dick Tidrow. But you wonder with this transition in recent years, different managers, different general managers, maybe that's the next big step they take, is to find the next Dick Tidrow. And I don't know if I'm speaking out of place here or not.
Well, John, in the early 80s when I came up with the big leagues, Don McMahon was our pitching coach. And he used to just tell us challenge hitters. And a first hitter is really a challenge kind of hitter. He's going to establish what your inning is going to be like. And a walk is only giving another 90-foot base. And the next thing you know, you're in trouble already. And Don McMahon used to speak so loudly about throwing strikes, challenging hitters. That's why you have 8 guys behind you, he used to always tell us. I like that concept, and it really taught me a lot. The same thing when I was with the Kansas City Royals. You'll remember this name, Bill Fisher. Bill Fisher had the most innings without a walk, and boy, he was livid when you walked 2 guys in a row. He would just call you all kind of names, and every name was a negative name, because he said, are you scared of these hitters? You're not going to move up in this organization if you are. Sometimes I like those old type of pitching coaches where they got in your ear when you didn't throw strikes. And I just wonder if that's something they need.
Trust your stuff. Yeah. Don McMahon. And you probably, I don't know if you know this. I mean, he was a setup guy on that 1971 team.
He was a good pitcher.
He was
sure
like Willie's age. I think Jerry Johnson was the closer, and Don McMahon was a setup guy at like age 40, 41. And he had been a big-time journeyman, but he had a real good year that year, and then evolved into a pitching coach after that, and worked with you and so many others. But you're right, the Mad Dog philosophy and the Bulldog philosophy, just to attack hitters, trust your stuff, and not worry. I mean, don't you think there's a conflict of, hey, I throw 100 miles an hour, I should go after you, versus I'm nitpicking even though I have a 100-mile-an-hour pitch? I mean, why is it? You explain to me why so many pitchers maybe aren't more aggressive going after hitters with that kind of velocity and repertoire.
Well, I think, John, you hit it. It's velocity. How hard can I throw? And then looking at the speed gun, and no, I'm only throwing 96. I got to ump it up a couple notches, and the next thing you know, you're 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, and you're not in the zone. Pitching has changed. You and I have talked about that day when Ed Montague was up there with Murph and you and me, and we could have sat up there for hours. It was a great conversation with all 4 of us. But the game has changed in the pitching aspect. Guys coming out of the bullpen knowing they're only going to throw 1 inning, and that's a concept that the bullpen is now changed too. But you start thinking about velocity, and I think that's the number one thing. Mostly all these pitchers now looking for the draft in July. How hard can he throw? How young is he? Does he have a live arm? and the pitching philosophy has definitely changed. But a few more minutes with John Shea. He's out at Oracle Park. I want to get into Bryce Eldridge a little bit. Of course, Wednesday was a big game for him, hitting that grand slam. And you start looking at what he's done. 18 games he's been on base so far, and he's got a nice streak going. 8 doubles, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, 11 walks. What have you seen out of him within his last homestand? Because he's definitely got mature in front of our eyes, and he's definitely been stable at every at-bat.
You know Will Clark as well as anybody. And when this kid came up as a teenager, and the first interview I ever did with him, it reminded me so much of Will Clark. Even though Will went to college, he played in the Olympics. He was like great before he first saw that fastball from Nolan Ryan at the Astrodome that he set out of sight. But he showed up good. Now, Eldridge was drafted out of high school. Was he going to be a pitcher? Was he going to be a hitter? Was he going to be a right fielder? Was he going to be a first baseman? Was he going to be a DH? Nobody knew what to do with him. And now everyone knows what to do with him. You just leave him alone and put him in the lineup every day. But speaking with him when he was a teenager really reminded me of a young, brash Will. Brash is probably the wrong word because Will was cocky. He believed in himself. And if you doubted him, he'd be in your face to tell you how good he was. Now, Eldridge is a little different because he's a little bit more mild with his cockiness or confidence, but he said the same things Will said. He said as a teenager that he wanted to be a face of this franchise. He said as a teenager that he wanted to be the guy that everyone else is going to lean on. And I've never heard a 19-year-old tell me that. And then he hits that grand slam, and he's saying the same things at his locker. I want to be the face of this franchise. I want to be the guy everybody leans on. And now everyone believes it. Back then, he was just a kid trying to get, to AAA. But now he's the number 2 hitter on a team, and basically he is the face of the franchise. Because who else is? I mean, that's Buster is here, but he's not playing. And there's Chapman Devers and everybody else in the lineup. But this is the kid that's going to lead this next era, and he's maybe a generational player. He might be the next Will Clark, and if he is, we don't want him to be anything less. We don't want J.R. Phillips, or I can name you 10 different first basemen who came and went and didn't pan out. But Will, like McCovey and Cepeda and JT and so many other great first basemen here, Brandon Belt, he's going to be the next one. And the fact that he wants to be the leader, Rafi Devers came in here. First thing he did in his interview is say, I don't want to be a leader. I mean, okay, they got enough leaders. They got Chapman and Adames, et cetera. But this kid, I want to be the leader. I mean, how cool is that? It's really amazing, and it's fun to watch.
I think it's awesome. I really do, and I love how he said it. He was firm. He wanted to do it. He thought about the strikeout on Monday, comes back Tuesday, hits a solo home run, but he wants to be in the moment, and I think that's exactly what you compared to Will Clark. But as we finish up with John Shea, I want to bring another question about Willie Mays to you. You posted it on X. It was a photo of a barn that they were renovating, and it was pretty cool. It was really cool how they did it. They showed it in a fast forward, and then they put some images of Willie Mays all over the board, all over the side. Say Hey was written on it. Any idea where that barn is? Because I couldn't find it where it was.
Well, it's way up 101 north of Salina. Way the heck up there. And it was a mural. It had been a mural for decades. And I just kind of discovered it on YouTube and kind of shared it with everybody, including all of Willie's inner circle friends who still communicate and get together and talk about Willie Mays. And I thought it was the greatest thing. It was just a barn. And next thing you know, it's a shrine. It's a tribute to the greatest who ever played. And there's about a 2-minute, you could find it I posted it on Twitter yesterday or the day before, so you could find it there. But it's kind of a 2 or 3 minute tribute about how it was done. And just some common folks who live way the heck up north and follow the Giants from afar, and were big Mays lovers and fans. They just said, you know what, we're going to do this. Now, if Willie were alive, he would say, "Hey man, that's great, but you going to pay me?" You know Willie, right?
What's going to cost you? What was going to cost you? But it looked great, and I was so glad you posted it. And you got to watch through the whole thing, how they did it, how they painted it. But it was so cool how they renovated it. And then all the pictures of Willie, the images, just turned out real well. But, John, thanks so much for joining me on the Warm-Up Show. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you at the yard soon.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bill.
That was John Shea on the KNBR Warm-Up Show. We'll have J.P. Martinez coming up next as I sat down with him from his change from being a Giants pitching coach, and now he's with the Atlanta Braves. And, of course, the Giants will be flying there Sunday night, and they face the Atlanta Braves Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Coming up next, I sit down with J.P. Martinez right here on the KNBR Giants Warm-Up Show on the Sports Leader.
Now back to the show built for the orange and black family. This is Giants Warmup on KNBR, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the KNBR Warm-Up Show with Bill Laskey. I'm honored to have a guest on, a good friend of mine. He was a pitching coach with the San Francisco Giants last year, and now he's working with the Atlanta Braves. Let's welcome in JP Martinez. JP, how are you?
Bill, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate your time. And, of course, last year, at the end of the year, the Giants had the third best pitching average, earned run average of 3.44. The bullpen was doing a fabulous job. A little let down in the months of August and September. Now you've moved on to the Atlanta Braves. Tell me how that's been.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's been great over here. We, it was tough decision to leave San Francisco. I love all the guys over there. Still check in on a lot of the pitchers over there to see how they're doing. But it's been a smooth transition for us. We, my family and I, my wife Kate and I and our two boys were out there on the West Coast for 5 years, and we loved it there. We lived in Bernal Heights and loved everything about San Francisco, especially working for the Giants. But I grew up in Louisiana, so now that we're in Atlanta and my wife's from Boston, we've had a lot more family in town. It's easy trips for them to get down and see us. We've seen the grandparents a lot more, and we love the community of Atlanta, love the team here, love the organization. So everything's been great.
Well, JP, the Atlanta Braves moved on. Walt Weiss is now the manager. You're working with Jeremy Hefner, the other pitching coach. And I think you probably worked alongside with him when he was with the Minnesota Twins in 2019, because you were over with the Twins before the Giants. Did you have any kind of relationship with him before?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I did. He, Hef was an advanced scout for them for 2 years while I was working in the minor leagues in A-ball and as a pitching coordinator. And then my second year as the pitching coordinator there, co-pitching coordinator with Pete Mackey, who's the Minnesota Twins pitching coach now. Hef was the assistant coach for Wes Johnson his first year. And so I made a few visits to the big league level and got to hang out with Hef up there and see him work. And that was a warm intro for us because we've stayed in touch over the last 5 or 6 years, and we see each other in the outfield or by the bullpen, just friendly mostly. And then it turned out, we actually were both interviewing with the Braves at the same time. And he got the job, and so I called him to congratulate him, and we got to talking, and it sounded like it might be a good fit for me to go join him over there.
Well, it's definitely work, and the Atlanta Braves pitching staff is outrageous. The bullpen is fantastic, a 2.9 earned run average. And when you start looking at some of the names down there, Dylan Lee, Robert Suarez, and, of course, Mr. Iglesias, the closer. Tell me a little bit about this three combination you have down there.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure to watch those three work every night. Dylan came up with the Marlins, and I think at some point got DFA'd over there. And when he came over to Atlanta, started throwing a slider, and now that slider is something he throws about 70-75% of the time, and it's an elite weapon. He's out from the California coast. Actually, I think he went to Fresno State and grew up maybe in the Central Valley. Might be butchering that, so sorry, Dylan, if you're listening. But Dylan's been awesome, and he's got two young boys the same age as my kids, so they play around. But watching him and Bob and Iggy work every night, Robert Suarez, we jokingly call him Bob. He's a big guy, throws hard, really slow heartbeat, and obviously saw a lot of him with the Padres for the last few years. Iggy is super accomplished, came up with the Reds, was with the Angels for a while, and then has been in Atlanta the last few years. He's closing in on 300 saves. So I think we've had some really, we had some really tenured, experienced relievers come through San Francisco between the Rogers brothers and Doval and Jake McGee, Don Leon, some of those guys that were there over the years. But this kind of three-headed monster that we have on the back end here, I haven't seen, a group of guys with that much experience, and just getting them watching them, get to work each night and get ready for their appearance has been impressive.
JP Martinez joined me on the KNBR Warm-Up Show. When you change organizations, you came from the Twins to the Giants and now the Giants to the Braves. Is there different philosophies you have to learn, or is that something that you work out with Jeremy Hefner on some of the things you want to bring to the organization?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things when you do change organizations, and I mean, I've only gone from Minnesota to San Francisco and then now from San Francisco here, so it hasn't been a ton, but the coolest part for me is getting to compare notes with all the other people that are coming onto the staff, right? So me and Hef are comparing a bunch of notes on the pitching side and kind of like holding our philosophy side by side, and he's been really cool and inclusive about letting me author some of the stuff that we're putting in place. Dustin Garneau is our catching guy, and he came over from the Rockies and just finished his big league career, I think, in 2022. So between the three of us on the coaching side, and then a couple of our AGMs that are with us every day, Adam Sonnabend and Michael Schwartz, the five of us are kind of outlining everything on the pitching and catching side of things, and that's been a really, really cool kind of like getting off the ground relationship for me to just, compare notes with all those guys. I had a lot of familiarity with Shorts, but the other three, it's just been fun to chop the game and talk about it.
Well, JP, in a few conversations you and I have had in the past few years, advanced analytics, trying to understand analytics. But what you did is you brought analytics to the field and try to incorporate that with your pitchers. Is that an easy task to do? And how hard is that to try to influence new pitchers on some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I think at this point it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything too advanced. It just feels like part of the job. I had some really good examples with Minnesota, with Pete Mackey, with Andrew Bailey and Brian Bannister over in San Francisco, and now with Hef here. I think people like to kind of lump it all together as like analytics, like it's this boogeyman, but really it is really all it is just good information, right? Like well thought out, objective information. We're not shooting from the hip on many things. We're looking at biomechanical skeletons. We're looking at metrics. We're looking at pitch shapes. And we're making educated guesses essentially around like what would be the next steps for any pitcher that might be struggling or that we want to stay proactive on in terms of their game. And I think one thing I've really noticed the last, let's call it 5 or 6 years, is that players are looking for it. They're really open to it and they really want it. Instead of maybe thinking that you're just giving your subjective opinion. They like to know that things that they're working on and things that they're trying to push forward are things that have been well vetted, and checked on objectively. So I enjoy that part of it. It's fun for me. I like being able to connect with the players and maybe help put things in their own language. I get called the analogy guy because I talk about tennis and fishing and golf and fish fighting, any of these other things that might be able to parallel to pitching. So.
Oh, no question. I remember you and I talking about that, the parallels of pitching and other things that you come up with daily. But you talked about Hef and yourself, and you did it well with the Minnesota Twins, as well as the San Francisco Giants, scouting, watching hitters, understanding different philosophies and different ways to approach hitters. You're in a bullpen. You're also working with Hef with the starting pitchers. Some of the things that you had to incorporate from what you learned to now with the Braves, anything different?
I think one thing that is really beneficial for me is that Hef is very, very sharp. He's a very smart guy. He's a very patient guy. He's a very honest and loyal person, and I really respect him and enjoy working with him. And so I know that when I come in any conversation with Hef, I need to be buttoned up in terms of like having done my homework. If I'm shooting from the hip on something, or if I feel like if he feels like maybe I haven't done my homework around a certain thing that I want to implement with a player, he'll question me on it and he'll push back a little bit. And I like that because it makes me better. So I think that relationship has been really strong so far. And then on the other end of things, I think I kind of help him maybe remember certain things or check on certain things. I see my job with him most of the time is to give input. Like if I see something with a guy's delivery or a guy's pitch shapes that I feel like might be off, I'm usually flagging it for Hef, and then we'll look into it together. And I think he does the same thing on the other end of things with me, with maybe the relievers. Neither of us has put a fence around like the starters and the relievers. I think we both work on all of the pitchers together, and that for me has been really fun. Because being the head guy last year and having a lot of exposure to the starters in San Francisco, that's a group of guys I like to work with too. But generally, I feel like the relationship's been really strong and warm from the jump, and I really like working with them.
JP Martinez joining me for a few more minutes on the KNBR Warmup Show. We talk about pitch selection, different pitches, different ways to hold the ball. You did that a lot with the San Francisco Giants. Is this something you incorporate with your bullpen guys, trying a new grip, trying to get a little tighter slider or tighter curveball? Are those things that you can work on on your side sessions?
I think so. Yeah, I think, the difference between starters and relievers now is that the starters get the bullpen at least once a week, and relievers a lot of times they're just working on what they might need in their catch play. And sometimes they'll hop up on the slope and throw a few pitches on the TrackMan or on the Edgertronic camera, but most of the time it's just a feel they're trying to get, with the ball in their hand on grass. And so I think when it comes to working on stuff with relievers, we try to find a good time to get off the slope if possible, maybe 5, 10, 12 pitches here on a day that they've got a little bit of rest and they're either up that night or they have, a day or two before they have to be available. So just kind of timing when they can get on the mound and work on it. And then, the two main tools for me are TrackMan and Edgertronic. Seeing the ball come off their hand in slow motion is incredibly helpful. You can see what pitch, what fingers touching the ball last, what kind of orientation, what kind of tilt you're grabbing. Spin efficiency and gyro are things that we talk about frequently, and the players are well versed in now, like how much the ball is turned and what direction it's spinning. And so I try to find, stuff from in-game Edgertronic or video or TrackMan data, Hawkeye data that I can give them that's actionable in catch, right? So maybe throw this type of ball, or think about this when you're throwing, or try to see this shape when you're playing catch with your throwing partner. Those are all things that I feel like let us kind of be proactive about where their stuff is at and where their delivery is at without, having to do a ton of mound work in between outings.
Yeah, JP, when you're working with this and you're seeing all the TrackMan, you're seeing all the data, one of the things that I remember you and I talked about was throwing strikes, not giving up free passes. I'm looking at your bullpen numbers right now, 75 walks with over 240 strikeouts. That's a great ratio. It really is. And you start thinking about, how do you get guys to throw in the zone? How do you command the zone? How do you get ahead of hitters? You and I have always talked, first strike is always the best pitch. But how do you teach that? How do you get guys implemented to go after these hitters?
Yeah, I think some of it is on the acquisition front. Like, I think Alex has been really strong on acquiring and signing strike throwers. Like Robert Suarez, one of the best strike throwers in the league, and so adding him into the mix, kind of, the rising tide, rises all boats. But I also think that we focus heavily on count leverage and getting ahead. Like attack mode on the first pitch, and then race to 2 strikes. And so if guys have any issues in that department, whether it's getting ahead overall or getting ahead of righties or lefties at a different clip, like guys might get ahead to righties, at 75%, and they might get ahead to lefties at 50%. So just finding some more ways for them to get ahead versus left, whether it's a pitch type or a location to go to. Those are some things that we focus on. Some guys get ahead a ton and then they kind of mess around in those middle counts and they don't end up getting into any good 2-strike counts. And so the analogy that I've used in the past, and I did this with the Giants last year in my camp address and throughout the year, is it's kind of like a football team, right? Like the teams that score the most are the teams that get in the red zone the most. And those are the teams that move the ball the best, right? So they rack up first downs. There's not a ton of third down opportunities for those teams because they're just consistently pushing the ball down the field. And the more they end up in the red zone, the more they end up in the end zone. And so that's what we try to do with our guys. I think that's a good practice for any pitcher, really, is to just kind of, if you eliminate that 0-1 count by getting behind in the count, well, then you're not going to get any 0-2 counts. And so we try to just preach that to our guys every day and always give them kind of a read on where they're at in that department and work with the catchers on how to make sure that they continue to gain leverage.
As we finish up with JP Martinez on the KNBR Warmup Show, relationships in baseball mean so much. Relationships, friendships, you move on, you still grasp the same friends and the relationships you had with so many players and pitchers. How do you do that to yourself? How do you just close the door and open another door with a new organization? And you said you still stay in contact with some of the pitchers, but it's not always that thought pattern of having that friendship. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think, for me, I just turned 44 yesterday or 2 days ago.
Happy birthday.
And yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And my first day in professional baseball, I turned 22. So that's kind of weird, right? Like I turned 22 and now I've spent 22 years in professional baseball or something close to it. And all of my closest friends in my life outside of my family are people that I met in the game. And I like that. I enjoy that. I think it's great. I've gotten much better at keeping in touch with people over the years. I've talked to Logan Webb and Robbie Ray a good bit this year. I keep in touch with Alex Berg and check in with other guys over there that are still on the team. Talked to Ryan Walker recently. And so some really close friends still in the Giants group. And then, it was cool for me to come over here to Atlanta because some of my good friends that I used to work with are now back over here. So Tommy Watkins is here, our third base coach. I coached A-ball with Tommy with Minnesota. Tony Diaz is over here with us, and Tony was with Minnesota as well. Obviously got to know Hef a good bit. And so, yeah, it's funny how small the game is, even in such a big world. Getting to know a lot of these players and know the players that they know. And so there's all these connections that happen along the way. We just went to Boston. I got to see Andrew Bailey there. I saw Brian Bannister, recently. He's with the White Sox. And so, you move on and you move to other orgs, but I think you forge new bonds and you always stay in touch with the guys that you were really close with along the way. I've loved working with the Braves so far. They're really, really quality people in this organization. Walt Weiss is the man. Alex Anthopoulos is excellent. And, the clubhouse staff, all the players here, everybody's welcomed me with open arms. And so it's been very cool to kind of start to get close with the new group while still maintaining those old relationships.
Well, JP, it's called the fraternity of baseball. We all live in it, and it never ends. And that's what's great about the game of baseball. And I appreciate your time, my friend.
Yeah, of course, Bill. Thanks for staying in touch. And I hope to see you when we come out to San Francisco soon.
I sure will. That was JP Martinez on the KNBR Warm-Up Show. More coming up right here on The Sports Leader.
Giants fans. First pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the sports leader.
All right, back on a Giants warm-up show with Bill Laskey, filling in for Kerry Crowley. He'll be back on next weekend. I'll be right back here tomorrow for a Sunday show. But let's take a look at the starting pitchers today for the Cubs and the Giants. Let's go to the Cubs first. Ben Brown, just a fantastic season. He started the season in a bullpen. He's been in 18 games. He's only started 6 games. The 26-year-old right-hander, 57 innings pitched. He's only given up 34 hits, 11 earned runs, 16 walks, 58 strikeouts. The one number that's just showing right now in my eyes, only he's given up 1 home run so far in 18 games, a 1.74 earned run average. He faced the Giants in Chicago. He went 5 1/3 innings, only gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He threw 87 pitches, 55 for strikes, a lot of fly ball outs, 9 fly ball outs that game. Opposing hitters, a 170 batting average. Tough game today for the Giants with Ben Brown on the hill. His last 3 outings against San Francisco, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh, 18 1/3 innings. He's only given up 8 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, 18 strikeouts. He's got a fastball that reaches in the mid-90s, a knuckle curveball in the mid-80s, a sinker, and a changeup, a 4-pitch mix. We'll see if the Giants can get to him early, because they're going to have to, because if he gets his rhythm going, he has really pitched well for the Chicago Cubs. On the other side, Trevor McDonald, a sinker, slider type guy too. Matter of fact, 61.3% is a ground ball rate, so he is constantly looking for ground balls. He pitched against the Chicago Cubs in Chicago, got a no decision. He went 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. The Giants ended up winning that game 2-1. Overall numbers, 2-3 on the season, 4.15 earned run average, only giving up 3 home runs, 39 innings pitched, 34 hits, 19 runs, 18 of them earned, 12 walks, 37 strikeouts. For the month of May, really pitched really well, had 1 bad outing. He went 2-2 with a 4.3 in 5 games. 29 innings pitched, 25 hits, 6 walks, 27 strikeouts. And I think the big thing here is walks. He's got to be in the zone. He's got to stay low with the 3-pitch mix he brings. And a lot of it's going to be sinkers, sliders, and changeup. So a good matchup. Tomorrow, really going to be a good game. Logan Webb back on the hill for the San Francisco Giants. Ever since he's come back from the IL 3 games, he pitched against Colorado, Milwaukee, and Washington. In those 3 games, Colorado 4 1/3 innings, only gave up 1 run, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Milwaukee was fabulous, had a no-hitter going for most of the game. He went 7 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. And then his game against Washington backed it up with a stellar, outstanding job. 8 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 7 strikeouts. You put all that together, he got 1 win, 2 no decisions, 19 1/3 innings, 9 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts. No doubt about it, Logan Webb is back on track. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, do the lineups, and get ready for the Giants pregame show right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Our KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader.
Back on to the KNBR Giants warm-up show with Bill Laskey. Let's take a look at the lineups for the Cubs and the Giants today. Craig Counsell in his second full year. The Cubs are 36-34. Pete Crow Armstrong leads it off, batting center field. Alex Brunman's batting second. He's going to be the designated hitter for the Cubs today. Michael Bush playing first base will be the third hitter. Seiya Suzuki is playing right field. He's a cleanup hitter for the Cubs. Ian Happ batting fifth, playing left field. Nico Horner batting sixth for the Cubs today, playing second base. Pedro Ramirez, a 22-year-old prospect. He's going to be playing third base today. He's at 217. Miguel Amaya, he's going to do the catching for the Cubs today, batting eighth. And Dansby Swanson batting ninth, playing shortstop. So it's Crow Armstrong, Bregman, Bush, Suzuki, Happ, Horner, Ramirez, Amaya, and Swanson. And that's the lineup Craig Counsell's throwing out there for the second game of a three-game series. Tony Vitello's throwing out his lineup today, and this leadoff hitter, Luis Arraez, a 12-game hitting streak. He's going to be playing second base. Bryce Eldridge will be DHing. Boy, he's hitting the ball real well, hitting .316 now. 5 home runs, 13 RBIs. Casey Smith batting third. He'll be playing left field. Rafael Devers playing first base. He'll be in the cleanup spot. Jung-Hoo Lee batting fifth in right field. Willie Adames playing shortstop, batting sixth. Matt Chapman playing third base, the hot corner. He's hitting seventh. Drew Gilbert back in center field, hitting eighth. And Eric Haas will put the catching gear on and catching for Trevor McDonald. McDonald on the hill for the Giants. Ben Brown on the hill for the Cubs. It's Arraez, Eldridge, Schmidt, Devers, Lee, Adames, Chapman, Gilbert, and Haas. I want to thank my guest today, John Shea of the SF Standard. Mark Abania is a great job. He used to be on KTVU Channel 2. And, of course, J.P. Martinez now with the Atlanta Braves. We didn't have a chance to put Joe Whitman on today. We'll put that on the extra inning postgame show, as I'll be covering the postgame show today. And also, Dave Tobner is going to join me from the SF Gate. Wrote a great piece on Bryce Eldridge. Coming up next, the Giants pregame show with more Diamond Notes. Stay tuned. I'm Bill Laskey, and we're right here on KNBR. The Sports Leader.
Hey, have you downloaded the new KNBR app yet? If not, what's your deal?
Hey, bud, what's your problem?